Well, Superman has his fortress of solitude, and Bruce Wayne, he's got the Bat Cave, and me, the Menzoid, I've got the Menzoid Man Cave, a place to sit back, chill out, talk about the issues of the day, and I'm very pleased to have back in the Menzoid Man Cave Mr. Craig Battle, senior editor at Sportsnet Magazine. Welcome back, Craig.
Thanks, David. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Now, the issue du jour, folks, is sports uniforms and logos and names and political correctness. Now, a few weeks ago, we had a team in Ottawa with the Canadian Basketball League called the Ottawa Tomahawks. That name lasted all of 24 hours because Tomahawks was deemed to be racist somehow. And currently, there was a group south of the border petitioning to have the Washington Redskins lose their trademark protection on the Redskins name, which would mean the team could still use the nickname Redskins, but they would probably take a big hit at the cash register in terms of team merchandise and whatnot. And Craig, I guess, my issue here is that when you look at names, both of these have to do with Native culture, of course, but is this going to be a growing problem? There are so many teams, Cleveland Indians, Kansas City Chiefs, Atlanta Braves, that do make use of Native icons or Native names. Is this a problem, and do you see that these teams being forced in the years ahead to change their names?
Well, I think if we look back at the last 40 years since the early 70s, there has seemed to be a trend in teams moving away, particularly from those Native American names, sort of at the high school, college, and some of the pro levels. And it seems like the Ottawa team just kind of got on the wrong side of that trend. I think in 1971, I read a stat recently that said there was about 3,000 teams in the States. And nowadays, there's about 900 teams with the Native American logos or team names or something like that. So it seems like while the Tomahawks might not be the worst example of acculturation or cultural appropriation or whatever, it does seem like that trend has been going on for some time. And then so I think that got people a little surprised, and I think that's what got the Twitterverse curious about this. Why is this happening now when teams are moving away from these names and logos? If
you really hate the name of a team or a logo or you find offense for whatever reason, vote with your wallet.
Well, I think that does happen. I think that was part of what happened in Washington. It seems a hotbed of controversy with sports teams' names. I think they saw people moving away from the Bullets just because of the violence in that city, the gun violence in particular. And I think people did sort of move away, and then basically the team eventually changed it to the Wizards because they didn't want that controversy, and they weren't succeeding at the box office or at the cash register. Right.
But I thought that was a ridiculous throwing away of tradition, the idea of getting rid of the Bullets name. You're right. This is the late 90s in Washington. Very high crime rate, high homicide rate. But changing the name of a basketball team, was that the proverbial hill of beans in terms of fighting crime in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, I don't know if it changed the crime rate at all, but it definitely, I think it did, just sort of teams in terms of changing the brand. Like Washington Bullets were never a successful team, You're seeing it right now in the NBA. The New Orleans Hornets are changing their name to the New Orleans Pelicans, to be more of a part of that Louisiana culture. Like Hornets came over with the team from Charlotte, but they were never really, Hornet had nothing to do with sort of Louisiana. So they're changing the team name to the Pelicans. And it's all part of a rebranding in terms of just getting that name out there and getting people to talk about the team in a new way.
Thank you so much for dropping by.
Thanks a lot.
Always a pleasure. And folks, keep it tuned here to Menzoid Mornings. More coming up right after this.